I don't think they've cooperated at all. They do not have Nolan's phone. They haven't had access to Nolan's phone. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has it. So how can you say that there's text missing or there's photographs missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back to Christine and her friends later that night.
The official record opens with a claim that should have ended everything. The attorney for the young men on the boat says they had no reason to touch Nolan Wells's phone. They gave it back that night. Nothing was missing. Nothing was deleted. But the record already shows a problem. If no one had access to the phone, then no one can say what was or was not on it. The statement does not clear the friends. It locks in the contradiction.
Big question. That is Tyler Cox representing the so-called friends of Nolan on Horn Island. And if he's claiming that no one see the phone, how does he know that something's not missing? So that's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Let's hear that one more time from our friend Dan Abrams.
I don't think they've cooperated at all. They do not have Nolan's phone. They haven't had access to Nolan's phone. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has it. So how can you say that there's text missing or there's photographs missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back to Christine and her friends later that night.
The lawyer repeats the claim like a closing argument before any evidence has been tested. Anything about missing text messages or Snapchats is completely false. But that is not a fact. That is an assertion made without the phone, without extraction, without forensic confirmation. The paperwork already knew.
Well, from my understanding, authorities do not have it, and the family have not been cooperating with authorities to give the phone over. According to the testimony or written statement from the lawyer that represents the family, the Nolan Wells family, he had made mention that he's prepared to cooperate, but they have not cooperated yet, which is very interesting to me. You want to find out what happened to your son. You would think you will be doing everything you can to cooperate. I can't judge her. I don't know what's in their mind, but it just seems to be very off-putting for them not to at least give the phone over and do what exactly they told the world they were going to do, and that is to allow a forensic extraction of his phone. Therefore, the world can see if there is things that have been deleted. I think Tyler...
The pivot comes fast. Authorities do not have Nolan Wells's phone. The family has not handed it over. According to one former officer, the lawyer for the family said they were prepared to cooperate. Prepared is not the same as done. The phone sits somewhere between a legal promise and a forensic necessity.
To Heather Barnhart joining us, digital forensics expert with Celebrite. We learned all about Celebrite during the Alex Murdaugh trial. That's how we got everything off of his dead, murdered son's phone. And the SANS Institute, S-A-N-S. She is one of the preeminent digital forensic experts in the country. She helped crack the Brian Kohberger case, and she is co-author of Practical Mobile Forensics, now in its 4th edition. That means that many people have used it. Heather, thank you for being with us. If the phone, I don't care where it is. Okay, actually, I do care where it is. I want to know that it's been handed over. I don't have to have the phone to know what's on the phone if it's in the cloud. It looks like an iPhone to me. So my argument with Officer Tatum is academic. It doesn't matter if I can get it from the cloud. So Nolan's phone missing. So what? I can download it. I can get it.
Data will exist in the cloud if he's syncing to iCloud and third-party applications. However, having physical access to the phone is...
Think of a phone lying face up on a boat cushion, screen dark, while the boat pulls away from Horn Island. That object is not just missing. It is the only silent witness that remembers everything. A digital forensics expert explains that the physical phone holds databases that the cloud cannot fully replace. The phone is not optional. It is the difference between knowing and guessing.
Do you have to have the phone to do the extraction? What about the cloud?
Cloud data is different, and there's a lot of information there. There could be unique information in the cloud that's been removed from the phone, if anything was removed, but it's best to have both cloud and the phone to paint the...
The expert says what the entire investigation hinges on. Cloud data matters. The phone matters more. Together they show the full pattern of behavior. Separately, they leave holes big enough for any version of events to survive. That is not speculation. That is the architecture of digital evidence.
Especially complicated cases, I would start out the trial with a big jar full of water and silt. And I had it sitting big on my counsel table, day one, right beside my Bible. And in closing arguments, the first thing I would do when I started closing arguments, I'd take that jar and shake it. And it would get very murky. You couldn't see anything. And I'd sit it down on my counsel table and argument would commence. And by the time I had gone through all the evidence, I'd go over to my table, pick it up and say, see, it's not muddy anymore. It's crystal clear what happened. My point is, we don't know.
The visual metaphor lands harder than a body of water. A jar full of silt, shaken until nothing can be seen. That is what this case has become. Every claim, every denial, every leaked detail makes the water cloudier. The only way to see clearly is to let the evidence settle. But evidence cannot settle if it is never collected.
I get it. Why he didn't have it in the water. I get that. I dive, I swim. I just went swimming with the dolphins with my twins. And yes, my phone was on the boat. But then I got it. I didn't let the boat take off without it.
Then comes the detail that should stop everyone. A teenager separates from his phone. He leaves it on a boat. The boat leaves without him. That is not normal. It is not proof of a crime, but it is the kind of abnormal fact that should trigger immediate forensic collection, not weeks of public argument.
But Tatum, the boat. Has the boat been searched by cadaver dogs and scent dogs?
The boat, from my understanding, has not been searched, and the cadaver dogs were made available.
The next contradiction is physical, not digital. The boat has not been searched by cadaver dogs or scent dogs. The boat was the last known environment where Nolan Wells was alive. It remains unexamined, not because law enforcement cannot do it, but because no one with authority has ordered it.
A citizen cannot force a search on somebody else's boat. So Crump or Mrs. or Nolan's mother, they cannot force a cadaver dog or a scent dog search on the Triton. Law enforcement needs to bring out a cadaver dog and a scent dog. It's just real simple. It's not hard. Do you agree? They are the ones with authority to do that.
Of course. A lot of these thought leaders and crusaders, the thought leaders and the crusaders can all request it and make sure that there's an in-depth, thorough investigation, but they cannot physically and personally initiate it or enforce all the procedures that are necessary to get that underway. One thing they can do, though, is go to the DA's office and ask that it be included as part of the grand jury investigation. Because believe me, Nancy, a grand jury starts investigating and wants all of these materials, including access to the boat, access to the cell phone, it's going to happen. Otherwise, they will suffer the pains of contempt.
A veteran trial lawyer cuts through the noise. Citizens cannot force a search. The family cannot authorize one. Only law enforcement has the power to bring dogs onto that boat. And a grand jury, if it is actually investigating, can compel exactly that. The question is not whether the family wants answers. The question is whether the process is moving toward them.
Well, you're going to have a reason to get a warrant. And if it's a criminal investigation and they believe that they can find evidence of a crime, if they had access to his phone, I could see them getting a warrant to extract his phone outside of the parent's will. But if you're looking at a potential drowning and there's no criminal element involved, and the parents are refusing to give over the phone, they don't believe it's any material evidence there. No, I'm saying this is what the law enforcement agency.
These questions anymore.
Nancy, this is what the law enforcement. I'm giving you a law enforcement perspective.
Nobody said Nolan. You know what? We're really chasing our tails here. We don't know that Nolan's family has refused to hand over the phone. My simple question to you is, law enforcement, if they want the phone, get a warrant for the phone. Go get the phone. Or
Nancy,
communicate to the family, give me the phone.
Nancy, there could be two things afoot. I'm not a part of the investigation, but I can see if they haven't gotten the phone yet, it's because they don't need the phone and they don't want the phone. It's not there of evidentiary value if there is no suspect here. If it was a drowning and there's indications of a drowning, they may not need.
The former officer offers a possible explanation. If police believe this was a drowning and nothing more, they may not need the phone. But that reasoning collapses under its own weight. You cannot rule out a crime while refusing to examine the one device that would prove or disprove it. That is not an investigation. That is an assumption with a badge.
Joe Scott, it's my understanding,
Yes.
correct me if you know differently, or Susan Hendricks, Dave Mack, jump in, please, feet first. Both medical examiners have stated to the effect, one says undetermined now, because we're waiting on, I think, toxicology. We don't know the answer. The second one has said undetermined cause of death. That's a yes, no. Isn't that true? We don't have a cause of death yet.
That has been made public. No. They said
Okay,
last week.
so
Hang
Brandon
on.
Tatum-
They said last week.
Excuse-
They said last week that the autopsy report is complete, which means they have tox, histo, and they've probably got a cause of death.
Okay, but we don't have the cause of death.
We don't. It has not been released yet.
And the second examiner said undetermined.
Yeah, because he didn't have any organs to examine.
The medical record is just as incomplete. One examiner says undetermined, waiting on toxicology. A second examiner says undetermined because organs were not available to examine. Cause of death has not been released, so the word, drowning, is not a finding. It is a placeholder that protects everyone from facing the hole in the evidence.
It could be that he did drown, but that does not rule out foul play. It doesn't rule it in. It doesn't rule it out. Explain.
Yeah, you're correct. I mean, drowning, just so you understand, if somebody, say, for instance, has a head injury, right, and they fall into a body of water, all right, that can lead to drowning, right? Because they might still be unconscious but capable of breathing. And of course, if you're in a water environment, you're going to be taking on water. I've worked cases where water has actually been weaponized as a means to take someone's life. But I've also worked, Nancy, a lot of cases involving accidental drownings where people fall over the side of boats. I've even had homeless guys that have passed out face down in mud puddles and have drowned. You never can predict, how any of this is going to happen. All we can.
A death investigator explains why even drowning does not close the case. Someone can sustain a head injury and then drown. Water can be weaponized. Lungs and inner ears can tell part of the story, but only if the examination is complete. The science does not rush. The science waits for the body and the phone and the boat to be examined together.
Have the friends taken polygraphs?
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me that they all passed, and all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a polygraph test.
Why do you say that's from what you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it.
Then the claim about polygraphs collapses in real time. The friends did not take a polygraph. They took a computer voice stress analysis. One of them did not take that either. The distinction matters because one measures physiological response. The other analyzes vocal patterns. Neither is automatically admissible. Neither proves truth.
Okay, let me just make sure clear, because I think the internet went in a frenzy about this. It's a computer voice stress analysis is what I was referring to. None of this is admissible in court, and I don't think it has the weight to concern anybody or whether or not anyone took it or not. I just thought it was important to show the cooperation that they had with the police. Even more cooperation, I believe, almost than the Nolan family. I mean, the boys have given their phones over to the FBI voluntarily, and we still haven't gotten Nolan's phone from the family to the police. So,
are you back on the phone? Because you don't know. You've already said you don't know where the phone is. It could be sitting on the sheriff's desk for all I know.
If they did it in the last 10 minutes, maybe that could be true.
Oh, so you knew before you joined us tonight that Nolan's family had not handed over the phone?
Well, I have no information to believe it was handed over. The last report from their attorneys that they hadn't handed it over.
The former officer says the boys voluntarily gave their phones to the FBI. That is significant. It means their devices are available for extraction. But Nolan's phone remains outside law enforcement's hands. 2 sets of phones, 2 completely different evidentiary postures. The asymmetry is not about cooperation. It is about access to the only device that belonged to the dead young man.
It's not. And with regards to Snap, if you send a photo or video and the other person hasn't opened it yet, it sits live on Snap's server for up to 30 days. Same with unread texts. Now, if law enforcement sends Snapchat a valid legal request before the message is deleted, Snapchat will freeze that data and hand it over. But if the message was already deleted before the police asked for it, Snapchat apparently cannot retrieve it.
Isn't it true, Tanya Jordan, that modern technology can prove whether you have deleted anything? There is a digital trail showing if you have deleted photos, text messages, videos, all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, so many people don't even realize that on Apple phones, when they go to delete a photo, there's a whole folder in there called deleted photos where they live for at least another 30 days. Your digital trail is so hard to erase. It's why tech experts like myself tell you when you have old tech that you're no longer using, don't immediately recycle it. Don't throw it away. You've got to give it a water bath to fry every component inside of it, because you can dig up.
The digital trail is hard to erase. Snapchat retains unopened messages for up to 30 days. Apple phones keep deleted photos in a separate folder. Nothing disappears easily. That means modern technology can show whether anything was deleted from Nolan's phone. But only if the phone is examined. The technology exists. The will to use it does not.
Yes, ma'am. They've handed over their phones to the FBI. Voluntarily.
I find that very commendable, because do you know how hard it is to get people to hand over a phone? That's why you have to issue a search warrant or a ducus tecum. So they have handed over their phones voluntarily.
Yes, ma'am. According to the lawyer and according to what they told me, they said they handed over to the FBI voluntarily. And the sad part is that I wish that Nolan's phone could be evaluated, because there have been claims that had not been substantiated, and I believe that the claims should have never gone out in the public unless.
The former officer praises the friends for handing over their phones. Then he says Nolan's phone should be evaluated because unsupported claims have already spread. But there is a problem. You cannot clear anyone without first examining the phone at the center of the dispute. Anything less is noise.
Crime. We just seen that happen in Texas, where young boys, there's a young man that drowned. They go and delete stuff off his phone, throw his clothes in the water, and they were arrested for tampering with evidence. And so if there had been deletions on the phone, even if there hadn't been a determination that anyone had murdered Nolan, tampering with evidence or deleting evidence, potential evidence, is a crime. And so the fact that the family, from my understanding and what the lawyers have said, that they haven't given this information over to law enforcement for them to evaluate, it's very troubling to me.
Okay, again, for the millionth time, you don't know they haven't. And I don't know that they have. But what you're saying about tampering with evidence is absolutely true. But I have no reason to believe that Nolan Wells' family has tampered with evidence. That said, I think you've got things bass-ackwards.
Tampering with potential evidence is a crime. Deleting communications before investigators can review them is not a technicality. It is obstruction. No one has proven that happened here. But the fact that the phone has not been examined means no one can say it did not happen either. Nobody asked. Nobody answered.
Is there a grand jury? Is there going to be a grand jury? Where is the phone? Was the boat searched? Just enlighten me in any way that you can, Susan Hendricks.
There is a grand jury. They are investigating. You mentioned Delphi. There's hints of this to me, meaning it's being tried in the court of public opinion. And it's troubling to me that we talk about the mom and we don't know that she didn't hand over the phone. So now she has to go on defense. And as Officer Tatum said, the boat has not been searched by cadaver dogs. So we know that. Grand jury is investigating, and the parents have to suffer through this. And also, all attorneys have to say is, I don't think, it's my understanding that she didn't hand over the phone. She wants to know what happened to her son. She wants to know, why wouldn't she hand over the phone? It's just obscene that she has to suffer through this even more.
A grand jury is investigating. That is confirmed, and still the boat has not been searched. The phone has not been extracted. The cause of death has not been released. A mother wants to know what happened to her son, and instead of answers, she gets a public argument about whether she has cooperated. That is not justice. That is fog.
Everything Tatum is saying and everything I'm saying, you know that phrase in the Bible, Tatum? We are now looking through a mirror darkly. We're looking through a very murky, grimy glass because we don't know. You are saying one thing, I'm questioning that because we don't know. And in the middle of it all, we have got a dead body of Nolan Wells. I don't want to get tangled up in arguments and vitriol that detracts from finding the truth. And I don't take anybody at face value. I don't suspect anybody, and I suspect everybody. I can't tell who's telling.
The final frame is the only honest one. We are looking through a murky glass. No one can tell who is lying. No one can tell who is telling the truth. But the evidence can. The phone can. The boat can. The grand jury can. The only thing standing between this case and clarity is the refusal to collect what is right there. Nobody asked. Nobody answered.
If you know, or you think you know anything, please dial 228-769-3063 tonight. We remember American hero Sergeant Kyle Robert McKee, U.S. Army, killed in the line of duty, leaving behind a beautiful wife turned widow, Lauren, and 3 children, Jackson, Canaan, and Ella. American hero, Sergeant Kyle Robert McKee. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us tonight in our search for the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells.
So here is the research question. Find the public statements filed in connection with the Jackson County Grand Jury investigation into Nolan Wells' death. Look for any record that confirms whether a warrant was ever issued for the physical phone. Then answer this in the comments. If law enforcement had probable cause, why is the phone still unaccounted for? The paperwork already knows.